What's going on, guys? Three Wheels on the Block, back in the garage, working on the Dodge. So, update from where we were at the last video. This side is pretty much ready for the next round of primer. We're going to step up to the SMR 2790G, and then we'll do another block sand on here. I think this one's pretty close. You see some additional filler, and that's where I had a low spot at the very top. We did fix this whole side here, and we fixed the whole side down here. It's a little bit of a low area that I filled in here as well. I had to go back and knock some high spots down here on the side of the bed where the owner had welded the bedside on, and there were areas that were just uneven. Had to go back and correct. Pretty much had to correct the entire top on both bed rails and both sections where it was welded down. So I'm gonna get to the other side and explain really, I guess, the rest of the story. So over here, this side of the bed was welded closer to correct as far as the depth of the welds. It wasn't pancaked in there as far as the driver's side was. You can tell by the amount of filler this here is not nearly as wide as the band on the other side is. However, when I was working my way up towards the front, there was a low spot down here there was a high spot in the center where it was welded up, and I ground it down, and then the metal itself was a little bit high, so I got a body hammer out and I was hammering on that to flatten it out. And when I did that, the entire bed from this seam all the way to the bottom just split apart, and I saw that the weld was not properly done. There was not penetration with the new metal and the old metal. It was just I guess tack welds along the top maybe, but anyway, there was not enough heat or penetration to hold the thing together, and I ended up having to go through, take what filler was in there, the fiberglass, the filler, the body filler, all that stuff back down the bare metal, re-weld it, and put it back together. And now I'm back to the stage where I was at before, where I was going to block sand it and get ready for paint. So yeah, that's a little frustrating, just because it's very time consuming to go back and fix something, especially when you're not planning on doing that. So we got that done, and along the top, you see I have some spots with some filler, and it's built up somewhat high. And my reason for that is I've got to take a block and rework this entire side of the truck. I know some people may look at this like, why does your body filler look so terrible? Well, there is some low spots down through here, and instead of just putting a little bit of filler in those low spots and potentially not getting it up high enough, Lakeside Auto Body said this before, put enough filler on to get it done right the first time. So 85 to 90% of what you see is going to be sanded off. But that makes sure that the filler that's under there that's going to remain has a good bond to the previous surface. The top of this is pretty flat through here. You can see where I'd already block sanded all this down. And I'll come around to the other side, and you can see where this has been block sanded down. I got to go back and reblock that little section. There's a small imperfection here that I added some filler to. Some small ones here you can see as well. So I'll block those down. And the other thing I was going to mention is that this bed, where it was welded up to the top, the weld was low. So all of this had been either pancaked or lifted or some form or combination of the two. And I ended up having to reshape most of this by hand. You can see this area here is done by hand. All this through here is done by hand. There's some metal showing through, but this should be mostly metal and not filler. But this is just where the bedside was installed. So it's very critical whenever you're doing your panel work to get your metal work as close as possible, because that'll alleviate a lot of your time for body work. And if we come around to this side, this is all filler, this entire radius, which has been hand sanded and formed with a block. Very time consuming, and that's why I had to go back through and add some more filler in some areas where the filler wasn't quite high enough. It wasn't a lot. I probably could have done it with some polyester filler, from a spray gun, but I decided to do it this way to get it even closer when I get to the level of, or when I get to the next step of putting my high build primer on, so I don't have to add as much primer as my hope. So that's kind of what's going on there. But yeah, this entire side had to be hand formed, because basically from here all the way back to in here had waves in it because the metal wasn't straight. And there's only one way to straighten it out, and that's either cut it all out, re-weld it, which since it had been welded and ground down, and there was, you guys saw in previous videos, the top portion where the metal was just peeling apart basically because it was ground down so thin before I got to the truck. I ended up cutting that out back and then adding metal, re-welding it in to get the thing solid where it won't come apart. So we're almost done with the bed, but I spent a lot more time on this bed than I was anticipating. I really was hoping that it was to the stage where I could come in, add some filler, and, you know, really fan out the low spots, which in the case of this, you can see filler from here all the way to here. And that's past the fuel door, and the section where this bed was spliced together was right here. So just to give you an idea, that's how large the area was. That's how large the area was that had to be fixed. That's the update. I'm getting the block out. Not the block. Getting the sanding block out. And I'm going to go ahead and attack the other side and get the radius up at the top done. I got a few spots on here to hit. And then take care of the lower section, like on the driver's side that's on the passenger side. And those sides will be ready for primer. And then I got to tackle this tailgate, which, yeah. So it doesn't look bad on camera. Basically just some stripped off paint. However, if you get in here closer, look right here. You can see that tailgate is very, very wavy. It's got a dent there, a big dent right there, a dent there, a dent there, a dent there. So all of that's going to have to be straightened either with a hammer and dolly or by adding filler. The form of the tailgate up top is okay, but you can see where somebody pried on something or shut something in the tailgate there where that's pushed out. And all this shows up when you paint the vehicle. So all of it has to be worked in order for it to look right. So again, just a time-consuming thing where somebody may say, oh yeah, you just slap a little paint on there, it'll be ready. And then if you do that and the truck's done or the vehicle's done, and they look at it and say, well, why didn't you fix that? Well, when you don't want to pay to get it fixed, this is why, because it takes time to fix it. And if you don't fix it before you paint it, then it shows up. As I've said before in other videos, your prep work is your paint job. It's important to make sure that your prep is at a level ready for your paint. Otherwise, you will have, you know, like this dent right here, that's going to show up. These dents down here, those are going to show up. There's even a dent here that I fixed. You can see the filler there where there was a dent back there. There's a dent down there. There was a dent there, a dent there, a dent there. There's a dent down here, another dent here. So as you can see, it's like, it's not what they say where, oh yeah, it's about ready for paint. This area here's dented in. 3 dents right there on the back of the bed, or on the back of the tailgate. Those are 3 dents right there. There's a dent right there. Those are dents. That's a deep scratch with a dent. There's a dent there, a dent there. There's a dent, there's a dent. So you can see they're everywhere. I mean, they're all over the place. Somebody's been in here and ground this area down. There's a dent right there, another dent right there. So just this tailgate alone, that could easily be 8 hours to fix that tailgate. You know, if your labor rate's $50 to $100 an hour, it's $800 to fix that tailgate, to make it straight, to make it right. And, you know, some people will say, well, just buy a new tailgate. If you can't find a new tailgate, then you got to fix what you've got. Or you just leave it and just paint the thing like it is. And nobody wants a crappy looking vehicle, you know, that's been repainted. And then some people don't want to pay to get it fixed. So that's why you end up with trucks that are this patinaed or hot rod black, because it takes a lot of hours to fix something right. It takes a lot of hours to make it look good. And in some cases, you might get a new panel like I had on the other truck where I had 2 new fenders and they were dented up. I had to fix them anyway. But anyway, just a little behind the scenes on what goes on in getting your vehicle laser straight and ready for paint. Now, this is not a concourse restoration. This to me is really just a basic paint job, and I'm fixing the areas that are really bad. There's some ping dings and small dents on the truck that the owner has to fix, which I'll take care of those. But, you know, honestly, for the price point this truck is at, this is really a lot more labor than, you know, he's going to be paying for. And I'll just be honest with you guys. So when you go get a paint job priced and they're like, you know, that's going to be $7,000 or $10,000, that's why it's $7,000 or $10,000, because each one of these dents takes time to fix. Each area that's low or high that needs to be body worked, it takes hours to fix this stuff. And unless people just give their time away for free, it's not going to be free. It's going to cost money. So just to give you guys a little bit more information on why your paint job costs what it does, this is why. A lot of these older vehicles, you know, reproduction parts either don't exist or they're expensive. And even if you get a reproduction part, it may still need to be body worked. So in the case of this tailgate, I would say replace the tailgate, get a new tailgate, because if you buy one for $400 and it only has 2 dents in it, that's still cheaper than the $800 it's going to take to fix this thing over the course of a day or two. Now, somebody may say, oh man, I fixed that thing for $200. If that's you, drop me a comment in the section below. You can come and fix as many of these dents as you want to. All right, that's enough of me yakking. I'm going to get back to work. All right, we got everything blocked down. Not going to shoot the tailgate, but I will shoot the bed sides and the front of the bed, top of the bed. Got all that blocked down. Got all this rescuffed. So I'm going to get the wax and grease remover out, wipe everything down, and then we will go ahead and put some 2790G on here. I'm going to use a 2.0 tip this time. I typically use a 1.3. I'm stepping up to a 2.0 so I can get a nice thick coverage on there and hopefully be able to block sand it down and have it very close to ready for base coat.